I want you to look at my husband in the eyes and tell him that he is waste, fraud, and abuse. Last year, my husband received a diagnosis that was devastating of Parkinson's, and we were trying to come to reconciliation with that. And so he applied for disability. And in the process, we received notification at the beginning of this year that he was denied. And it's come to obvious because we are in this black hole with Trump and his Doge crew that have gone in and dismantled the Social Security Administration. We're not sure how this is going to look, and it's impacting our family financially because we no longer have my husband's income. The second shoe to drop has to do with Parkinson's research. And my husband was hoping to get into clinical trials, which have now stopped because of Trump and the Doge boys and what they've been doing to all our agencies. So I get incensed and insulted when I hear Trump and his administrators talk about waste, fraud, and abuse, because I want you to look at my husband in the eyes and tell him that he is waste, fraud, and abuse. Because I can tell you with 100% certainty, he would rather be working full-time in his job than having a diagnosis for a disease for which there is no cure.
So Trump is now wanting to cut benefits and support for 400,000 SSI recipients with Down syndrome, autism, dementia, and other disabilities. The Trump administration is working behind the scenes on a rule change that would deduct the value of a disabled adult's bedroom from their SSI allotment, even if the family members that they're living with are so poor that they qualify for food stamps, which is often the case because families who are caregivers for disabled family members are often forced into poverty due to the lack of assistance that's already even available by our government. So it's kind of a self-feeding system. But what this change really means is that Trump wants to slash benefits for the most low-income and financially unstable disabled Americans in our country. Quote, the likely SSI cut will affect not just younger adults with disabilities such as Down syndrome and severe autism who are still living at home with their low-income parents, but also older people with dementia or other health or financial problems who have had to move in with their adult children on tight budgets. All told, as many as 400,000 poor and disabled people and indigent older people across the United States could have their support cut or eliminated, according to a ProPublica analysis of actuarial figures from the Social Security Administration. End quote. So, to receive SSI as a disabled individual, you're already forced to be poor. So you cannot have more than $2,000 in countable assets. That's not even like liquid money in your bank account. $2,000 in assets. And you can't earn more than $994 a month in income, which is less than $1,000. I don't even know where you could live for that price. Not anywhere where I live. If you want to get married, they don't even bother to double that number. You can't have more than $3,000 in assets if you're a married couple. That's for the whole couple. It's disgraceful that this is where the Trump administration thinks that they need to cut further to save money. A ballroom, bombs, those are all necessary. The poorest of the poor, disabled Americans in our country is where they think they need to cut. Be so for real.
Hi guys, my name is Kelvin, and you're welcome back to the channel. Did you vote for Trump? If you did, you're getting exactly what you voted for. Not the tax cuts for billionaires, not the winning, not the rallies. You're getting the Hunger Games. And somehow, you thought the arena was only for other people. You watched the ads, you shared the memes, you cheered when they called disabled people waste, fraud, and abuse. You nodded when they said the government was too soft on freeloaders. Now the same government is coming for the bedroom your adult child with Down syndrome sleeps in. It's coming for the couch your parent with dementia sits on. It's coming for the roof over the head of the young adult with autism who still needs you because the world was never built for them. They're proposing to treat the value of a family home, your home, as countable income. If your household also gets SNAP, they can slash or eliminate SSI for hundreds of thousands of the poorest, most vulnerable disabled adults in America. Average SSI check, under $1,000 a month. Asset limit, $2,000. Approval rate, brutal. Process, years. And now they want to punish families for the crime of caregiving. This isn't abstract. This is a wife whose husband has Parkinson's, whose disability claim was denied while the system is being gutted, whose clinical trials are being stalled, whose family income just vanished, standing there saying he would rather be working than living with an incurable disease. And still they're calling it waste. MAGA voted for this. A lot of you in red counties, in working class towns, in households that already stretch every dollar for groceries, gas, electricity, and medicine. You voted for the people who are about to decide that family love is a form of income they can take away. You thought empathy was optional. Looks like your lack of it just caught up with you. Pause. Soften the tone slightly. Stay with me, because what they're doing next is even colder.
In this regime's latest example of how cruelty is always the fucking point, they're trying to change SSI so that if a disabled person is getting help from their own family, they could lose their benefits because of it. I'm not even exaggerating. Like if you have a disabled kid and they live with you, or your parent can't survive on their own, so you take them in. That support can now be used as a reason to give them less. What are we even doing anymore? Because what's the alternative here? You're supposed to just not help your family when you see them in need? And don't even start with the there's no money excuses. There's always money when it comes to luxury projects, private travel, and taxpayer dollars magically ending up back in the pockets of the people in power. But the second it's disabled people, elderly people, children, now we're broke. Be fucking serious. And I need y'all to clock this hypocrisy. Because the same people that won't shut up about family values are literally pushing policies that penalize families for taking care of each other. So which one is it? Because right now, if you're vulnerable, you're on your own. If your family helps you, we're gonna punish you for it. And at some point, we all need to stop acting confused because it is always the same people getting hurt by all of these policies. That shit's not a bug, it's the design.
Please stop scrolling and just give me a couple minutes of your time. Myself and other disabled people will appreciate it. This is what's going down, and I'm sorry that my phone cannot crop it enough to show it. But the Trump administration is trying to penalize disabled adults who still live with their families. So what does this mean for disabled people? Let me explain. I'm a disabled adult. I'm 20 years old. I receive SSI and I live with my mother. SSI has very strict rules for disabled people. The SSI limit is now $994 a month. That is not enough for us to live on remotely. We also are not allowed to save our money, so we cannot even afford renting a place or getting a home. We also cannot get married. So because of the heavy restrictions on SSI, most disabled adults like myself are stuck living with our parents or other family members. And if this happened, then that would cut it off for myself and many others who rely on living with their family to have a roof over their heads. Some of us who are also on SSI also get Medicaid from that. So if we got cut off of SSI, we might also get cut off of our Medicaid. I read about this from ProPublica.org. You can just search up what I said earlier and it should pop up under ProPublica and you can read all more of it yourself. And if you've made it this far, please, please, please tell others about this, share this, make it known so more people can speak up and fight for disabled Americans' rights here. Thank you.
The Trump administration is moving to cut disability benefits for 400,000 Americans with Down syndrome, autism, dementia, severe mental illness, and other disabilities to save $2 billion a year. We found out this week the Iran war has cost $25 billion in 8 weeks. They're asking for $1.5 trillion in defense spending next year. And when you factor in gas prices and grocery inflation from a war that's blockading oil through the Strait of Hormuz, the real cost to every American family is far higher. But yeah, the people with Down syndrome living at home with their families, those are the ones who need to tighten their belts. ProPublica broke this story and it's being buried. The Trump administration wants to change how SSI benefits are calculated. SSI being the program for people who can't work because of severe disabilities. Fewer than a third of applicants are approved. Recipients average $994 a month. To qualify, you can't have more than $2,000 in assets. These aren't people gaming anything. These are people who have spent years fighting just to get approved. The average process takes 2 years. The proposed rule targets disabled adults who live at home with their families instead of in institutions. If your family also receives food stamps, the administration wants to count your bedroom as income and cut your monthly benefit by $300 to $330, or eliminate it entirely. The justification? Russell Vaught and Doge want to undo anything Biden touched. Conservative think tanks claim this saves $2 billion a year. The Center on Budget and Policy Priorities points out that the entire annual savings from these cuts wouldn't cover a single day of the cost of the tax cuts for the wealthy Republicans just passed. One day. But sure, the problem's the bedroom. ProPublica talked to real families. Opal Foster's 18-year-old son Jeremiah has Down syndrome. He lives at home and is trying to become a chef. Under this rule, his benefits could be cut because his family needs food stamps. Cutting his SSI saves taxpayers $11 a day. If that forces his family to place him in a residential facility, the cost to taxpayers jumps to hundreds of dollars a day. Disability advocates, faith leaders, and budget experts all agree this makes it more expensive. It doesn't matter. They're doing it anyway. Trump promised not to cut Social Security. SSI is administered by the Social Security Administration. When you point that out, the White House says, the disability programs are technically separate from retirement benefits. Meaning when Trump said he wouldn't cut Social Security, he apparently only meant the retirement checks, not the checks going to people with disabilities. That's the kind of distinction only Ebenezer Scrooge would make, or in this case, Russell Vought. $25 billion on a war nobody authorized in 8 weeks, $1.5 trillion in defense spending for next year, and $2 billion a year from people with disabilities living in their families' spare bedrooms. That's the math. That's who they think should sacrifice.
Hey, it's Joe from Georgia. So the government now, in saying the government, I'm going to say Donald Trump and his administration that's coming in, along with his civilians of Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, they're looking at where they can cut the budget. In one place that it goes to talk to another post, it was Social Security. Well, let's talk about the veterans benefits, especially veterans disability benefits. They basically want to say that some of these veterans who have benefits didn't deserve them. Well, I can tell you what, personally in my family, my son is a disabled veteran. He was in an IED explosion in Afghanistan. It took away years of his life. And yes, he did get a veteran's disability. But now they want to call those benefits absurdly generous. So how much money do you put on the price of someone's arm, leg, their mind, whatever it is? Well, these folks think they're just going to come in and they're going to cut those things out. Did you know how many veterans can't even function if they didn't have the finances to do it so? If someone lost their leg, just to get out of bed, they need assistance. Those type things. So now we've got them looking at where to cut, and one of the first places you look at are the people who served our country. Well, folks, that's what's going to happen. And for those folks who supported Donald Trump, you voted for veterans' disability benefits to be taken away from them. And when you look at what they're wanting to take away from, it doesn't even come close to the budget that they need to balance. So we're going to go ahead, once again, going to hit the Social Security, and then they're going to hit the next group of people who's going to be our veterans. Anyone who has served in the military, they've been injured in the service of their country, they have to be compensated. This administration coming up, they don't want to do that. Remember, Donald Trump is the one who said that veterans, basically, especially ones, suckers and losers, and what it was in for them. Well, now we're fixing to find out. So all the folks need to understand when these veterans don't have a place to live, they don't have money for food and all that, it's because of who you voted for. So folks, we've got to make a lot of noise. They can't take away, they'll call it entitlements. It's things that we paid in for our entire lives in Social Security. And now they want to take helpless people who are on veterans' disability benefits and take their livelihoods away from them.
Trump's war on the disabled people has to come to an end. If you don't know me, hi, I'm Macy. I make a lot of content about being disabled and chronically ill. And usually I wait to make content about policies I don't agree with until I've calmed down, but this is too important. If you haven't heard, Trump is ending the ability to apply for durable medical equipment, prosthesis, mobility aids, everything, saying that it is fraud. As if it's easy to get wheelchairs. As if my insurance has denied wheelchairs for me. As if I didn't have to just crowdfund for a wheelchair so that I could get out of my fucking house. As if veterans who are coming home injured don't need prosthesis. As if kids with cancer who were just kicked off of their clinical trials don't need durable medical equipment at home. This pisses me off so much I'm shaking. This is absolutely just them saying quietly, but also so out loud, that they believe in eugenics and that eugenics is the goal. This administration doesn't give a single fuck about anybody who is chronically ill or disabled. Doesn't matter if you served your country, doesn't matter if you're a minor, nothing. They want you to suffer. They want disabled people to go away. They see us as a drain on society. As someone who has a room in their house labeled the medical room that is full of the equipment that I have needed to be able to stay alive, that has housed feeding tube supplies, that houses my IVIG, that has housed my TPN supplies, that houses my fluids and my meds that I have to get that are life-saving. And 99.9% of that we have bought out of pocket. And we don't have money. I can't work. We're a single income household. We have had to rely on the kindness of strangers and our families. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. Or if I was here, I'd be 10 times worse than I already am, and I'm already mostly homebound. I will not stay silent on this. I will continue to speak up for the people in my community who need these supplies to survive, who need the ability to apply and get insurance to fucking cover necessary supplies. This isn't fraud. People need wheelchairs. People who don't even have... There are ambulatory wheelchair users. Me. I am one of them. I still need a wheelchair. A person without a leg still needs a prosthesis if they choose to use one. This is... They want eugenics. That's the goal.
Veterans' disability benefits are on the chopping block right now, and this could affect as many as 6 million disabled veterans. So here's what the Trump administration is doing. Exactly what they laid out in Project 2025. They've proposed a federal rule that would make it so that they can review veterans' benefits, and if you're taking a medication that is meant to treat your service-related disability, they will reduce your financial compensation if the medication works. So what they want to do is take veterans who have PTSD, and if they're taking meds, as they should, to take care of themselves, they'll take away their money. Now, as someone who has severe post-traumatic stress disorder, I can tell you that my life ebbs and flows with symptoms. On the one hand, I have engaged in an attempt on my own life. I've been unemployable for long periods. On the other hand, I'm a small business owner. I graduated from an Ivy League university. I run a couple of nonprofits. What the Trump administration wants to do is just look at the good side of a veteran's life and say, well, clearly the medication is working, so you don't need any sort of financial stability to go with it. Now, I can tell you that when I go through a months-long period of being completely overwhelmed by my symptoms, where it's hard to even get up in the morning, I don't have the wherewithal to fight with the VA. I've tried. The last time that I went through a period like that, I tried to get an increase in my disability rating because I was unemployable for months, and I was not successful. And I gave up. Because when you have PTSD, that is what happens. The disability payments that I receive from the VA allow me stability in life, financial stability, so that when I go through these episodes where my symptoms are out of control, I don't end up on the street. And of course, because they know this would be controversial, the Trump administration is trying to just slam through this law, going through expedited processes, so that there's not the typical proposal and then comment period. And we know from the VA regulations that the Trump administration has proposed before, they don't care about the public comments anyway. When they proposed to ban abortion healthcare services at the VA for women vets and dependents, it didn't matter that tens of thousands of veterans, military families, and concerned citizens wrote to object to this proposed rule. They just did it anyway. So look, if you're a vet, if you've got a disability rating, you should know that that rating is at risk if Donald Trump and Secretary Collins are allowed to just go through with this. So now is the time to speak up.
The Trump administration is now proposing to cut disability benefits for older Americans up to 20%. Let that sink in. Not billionaires, not defense contractors, not corporate tax cheats, disabled seniors, people who have worked their entire lives, now being told, sorry, we're cutting your lifeline. And the excuse? Streamlining Social Security. Translation? Slash staff, slash benefits, and make desperate people jump through even more hoops. Here's the kicker. They want to eliminate age as a factor in disability decisions, meaning a 59-year-old warehouse worker with blown-out knees or a crushed back? Denied. A janitor with chronic pain after 40 years on the job? Denied. Meanwhile, millions already wait 5 months for an answer because they laid off 7,000 SSA workers, and now they're tightening the rules even more. Economists are warning thousands will be pushed into poverty, forced to take early retirement at a massive penalty, permanently losing up to 30% of their Social Security, all while the government introduces a new system in 2026 that basically lets a computer tell sick, injured seniors, "You're not disabled, go get a job." This is not reform. This is not efficiency. This is cruelty dressed up as policy. If this is what saving money looks like, then older Americans better brace themselves, because the message is clear. The safety net is shrinking, and they're starting with the people who can least afford it.
Let's talk about who this actually hits. Not the coastal elites, not the people with stock portfolios. This hits the adult with severe disabilities still living with aging parents because group homes have waiting lists measured in years, and private care costs more than most families will ever earn. It hits the person with dementia whose adult child took them in so they wouldn't die alone in a facility. It hits the young adult on SSI who already lives in terror that one paperwork error could cost them Medicaid, the only reason they can see a doctor at all. ProPublica and others have reported on proposals that would redefine in-kind support so aggressively that the simple act of giving your disabled family member a roof and a meal could be treated like a paycheck, especially if the household is also on food stamps. SSI is already one of the strictest programs in the country. You can't save. You can't own much. You live under the poverty line by design. And now they want to make the poverty deeper for people who already can't work. They say it's about fiscal responsibility. Meanwhile, the same people who cry about a $1,000 monthly check for a disabled person have no problem with endless defense budgets, forever wars, and tax cuts that primarily benefit the wealthy. The savings from cutting these benefits, relatively small in the scheme of the federal budget. The human cost, enormous. Because when you strip home-based support, you're not saving money long-term. You're pushing people toward institutional care that costs the government far more, and destroys what's left of their dignity and family ties in the process. This is cruel by design. It is not an accident. It is a choice to decide that some lives are more expensive than they're worth. And the bitter irony? A significant number of the people who will feel this first live in the very places that voted hardest for the politicians now writing the rules. Working class communities, rural counties, places where disability rates are higher, where good-paying jobs disappeared years ago, where the social safety net was already threadbare. You were told the enemy was immigrants, or welfare queens, or coastal liberals. Meanwhile, the real target was always the people who need the system the most, including many of you. A disabled young adult living with a parent shouldn't have to fear that the government will decide their family is too generous. A wife shouldn't have to fight for her husband's basic benefits while watching research into his disease get stalled. No one should have to choose between keeping their adult child at home and keeping the only income that makes survival possible. This is what happens when a movement decides that empathy is weakness and cruelty is strength. You don't get to be surprised when that cruelty eventually circles back around. So, if this is hitting close to home, share it, talk about it, call the offices, make noise. Because the people writing these rules are counting on silence. They're counting on the idea that as long as the pain is concentrated on the disabled and the poor, the rest of the country will look away. Don't look away. The Hunger Games only work if the rest of us keep pretending we're not next. I'm going to keep covering this. If you have a story about SSI, about caregiving, about what these changes would mean in your house, drop it in the comments or send it in. We see you. We're not done. Hold eye contact, soft close. Take care of each other. I'll see you in the next one.